So we saw last week that fear is because we feel that there's some kind of threat or danger, and it was created for that purpose to keep us safe. And when there is an actual threat or danger, we tend to act quite instinctively. And so there's not much thought process when there's actual danger. So we're able to usually get ourselves out of the threat and return to safety. But we no longer live in a world where we experience threat in the physical sense. Now what we come to fear more often than not is threat to our self-esteem, our sense of, very often, it's not even a threat, but we perceive it as a threat. But when we're not going to get what we want. So the reason we get very nervous for a job interview, and nervous would be fear, is that I want the job. Of course, there can be cases of financial implications and we really need the money, but more often than not, it's I want. If there's a person that we feel is present, we want to spend time with them, befriend them, or in whatever scenario. And the fear that they won't like me back is because it's something I want. Is it life-threatening? No. But because in our thinking, we give it that value, that we see it in a certain way. And so last week we saw that there's potential threat and there's perceived threat. And this is the bulk of the fear that we experience in today's world. Today's world that we live in, that would be the bulk of the fear that tends to go on throughout the day. Of course, things do happen and we do get scared and there are potential threats. And in the sense of potential threat, there's the very uncertainty. Maybe the person will be okay, maybe the person won't be okay. And so there's an uncertainty. And that uncertainty itself becomes the threat. And this is very much hardwired into us. We fear uncertainty because there's a potential. So that's the focus of what we're going to talk about today. This perceiving and potential threat that can be, and a potential threat, varies in how probable it is. And sometimes things might be very remotely probable, and yet we fear it. And that's like with people who fear flying. Then people will throw statistics at them. You're more likely to die from lightning striking you than you are from the plane crash. But it doesn't matter how many statistics we throw at the person when they seeing it as a threat and they worried about it. In their head, it's more probable. It doesn't matter what the statistic is. It's seen as more probable, and then it can be more constant, right? So the fear is going to be constant. So we're going to be going back to this premise of fear is not meant to stay. It's meant to come and go. And when it stays, that's when it becomes unhealthy. So when it comes and goes, then the high dose of adrenaline and the heart reacting and the digestive system stopping, because that's literally what happens, right? The whole digestive system shuts down because you need to divert your energies to dealing with this threat. All of that's great, because if really I am being attacked, and who needs to be worried about digestion in that moment in time? We'll do that later. And we deal with But then what happens is when we prolong and the threat doesn't go away and it's just this potential threat which is constantly there, then that high dose of testosterone and then the digestion system locking down and then the muscles around the heart tightening become a strain on the body. And it becomes the very thing that ends up hurting us instead of saving us. It actually destroys us. So fear is meant to come and go, not stay all the time. And the other thing we're going to go back to is how we perceive it to be a threat. And we might all different people, we perceive different things to be a threat, and we perceive it to be a threat to varying degrees. So for someone who's very, very shy, getting up and speaking, it's a huge threat. If you ask me to get up and speak, it's like, yeah, okay. So varying degrees of how much we are intimidated by a certain situation or person or outcome. Okay, and then the other thing we're going to keep going back to, so this is our, we're going to go explore something and we're going to come back to these points. So these points now you should just know. One is it should come and go. Two, it's got a lot to do with our perception. And three is that we have the mind and the intellect. And this is using spiritual terminology. I'm going to use Western scientific terminology. Then we have the amygdala, which is the reptile brain. And I found out that it's called the reptile brain because reptiles don't have any more brain. They have only that. And then most mammals will have limbic system. And then, well, who are we? Primates. We have cortex, a cerebral cortex. So, and then monkeys and us are the only ones who have that. And apparently ours is more sophisticated than the monkey. But maybe we're saying that because we just want to be more sophisticated. But the thing that we like about this whole reasoning is that there's the lizard brain, and then there's higher thinking in us primates, which is supposed to be the cortex. Now, I'm not going to use those terminologies. I'm going to use the terminologies that Gurudev gave us, which is mind and intellect. And you can draw parallels. But for the purpose, what we need to know is there's lower thinking and higher thinking. And I tend to avoid using a hierarchy. I prefer, in most of my reflections, I prefer to be able to see that everything has a purpose and serves a purpose, and so not necessarily better or worse. And even though that is true in this case, there is somewhat of a hierarchy. And so intellect is better than mind. So what is mind thinking? Some of us are familiar with it in terms of Gurudev's BMI chart. Mind feels emotions. So the thinking that happens at the level of the mind is very much to do with emotions. And so emotions we think is anger, jealousy, sadness, regret, all those would come under emotions. But actually the emotion that's probably the most prevalent in us, which we don't necessarily seem to think of it as an emotion, is I want. I want is background noise in our head. I want a coffee because my husband stole half my coffee. I want the water to be warm. I want the AC to be turned down. I want, to change the flavor of my toothpaste. I want so many things. And these are not even important things. And then we want important things. We want financial security and we want loving relationships. These are genuinely important things. And we want, well-being. I've just been introduced to a group called the Wellness Tribe. So, we definitely want well-being. We want to understand. We want to evolve. So we have all the faltu desires that we want all through the days, and we have the significant desires that stay there permanently. It's not that I sometimes want to be happy. I permanently want to be happy. I don't sometimes want to be healthy. I just constantly want to be healthy. So mind, this is mind. Mind is I want. And then I perceive not getting what I want as a threat. Oh, that means I'm scared a lot. Because there's so many things I want. You know, Hong Kong has this incredibly efficient train station system. And phenomenal. It really is like the best in the world, and if not the best, the second best in the world for sure. You wait all of 2 minutes to get the next train. 2 minutes. In 2 minutes, you don't finish answering the WhatsApp messages on the phone, and the next train's already there. But walking down the escalator in the MTR station, people are, oh, I'm not going to catch the train. They'll push you because they want to get that train because the doors are open and the beep, 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 beep has started and they need to get onto the train. So you might have been the one, you might be the pusher, or you might be the pushy, but you have all experienced this scenario. And when you miss the train, how long do you have to wait? 2 minutes. And when we're trying to get into the train, as that noise is going beep, 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 it's not full-blown fear, but it's fear. I'm not going to catch it. Really? We can feel fear for that. Small. It's so small, right? In Australia, if you don't catch the train and you're waiting 25 minutes, I can understand. Even then, really? Okay, so what am I saying? We perceive not getting what we want as a threat. And then the more we want it, the more we're going to perceive not getting it as a threat. And so much of our stress, and I'll use all the different words that we do use for fear. So much of our stress is simply because we perceive not getting what we want as a threat. Now let's go back to this train example. Is it a threat? Anyone? This is why you'll see all the foreign, well, you don't see them anymore. All the tourists in Hong Kong looking at you like, what's wrong with you? Why are you in such a rush? Why are you making me walk on the escalator? No? Escalators are so that you don't walk. What's wrong? And us Hong Kong people are looking at them like you lazy people, walk. We've got places to go. We've got things to do. Well, no more. Okay. So now, we were talking about this wonderful brain that we have. And there's this mind. And the mind is, I want. And because I want, I'll have fear of not getting it. And if you happen to be the person who's not walking on the escalator, stopping me from getting there, I'll have anger to push you out of the way. All of this is mind, which is perfectly fine. Except that we also have intellect, which is more sophisticated thinking. Okay, let's use another word. Mature thinking. Another word, logical thinking. Whichever word you want to use. What's the logical thinking involved in this scenario? I will have to wait all of 2 minutes, during which I can answer half my WhatsApp call or conversation. All is well in the world. Even if I am late because I didn't get this particular train and I have to wait 2 minutes for the next train, how late will I be? 2 minutes. Surely they can forgive me for being 2 minutes late. But usually, of course, we left home way later than we should have. And we already 10 minutes late. And whose fault is that? Is this poor person who's not walking on the escalator? Is it their fault I didn't get up earlier? And if anyways I'm going to make an excuse about why I'm late, 2 minutes more makes no difference. The excuse can just be elaborated by 2 minutes. Higher thinking. Secondly, remember, fear was meant to come and go. And so I'm healthy. In fact, it could enhance the health because it gave me a workout. When fear stays, it's hurting. That's overuse of the muscles. It's strain on the whole system. So, getting stressed to get into that train while the beep, 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 beep is going on. What have I done? I've unnecessarily strained my entire physiology. Plus, I'm using mind thinking when I have more sophisticated thinking available to me. Right? It's like I have gourmet cacao made chocolate. And then you have way too sweet, way too processed Cadbury chocolate. I have the option and I'm choosing mine rather than choosing intellect. Now, this is a great place to understand fear. Why? Because we can laugh. And because that 2 minutes doesn't make a huge amount of difference. But understanding it in this scenario, you now understood it. And it applies to every scenario of, I'm scared I'm not going to get what I want. So if we escalate the want, I really need this job. Already things are tight. I really need this job. It's not even want, it's a need. And so I'm stressed about applying and the interview. That's mind thinking. Is it mind thinking? It's a need. Is it mind thinking? I want the job, but I also need the job. Otherwise, I'm going to be eating cheese sandwiches the whole week. I do that anyway, so all's well. Is it still the mind? It's combination of mind?
The mind's feeling, the fear. The intellect also knows that I need it, so the mind kind of justifies.
Intellect says I need the job. Mind says I want it because I need it. And I don't want to be out on the road. So they're both working. Will intellect say something else to you at this point in time? There is a pinch, right? So many people are feeling it. There is a pinch. Intellect tells you, we need a steady source of income. We need the job. What else will intellect tell you?
There will be no better.
Yeah, that's what intellect will. We'll just keep trying till we get one. Mind won't tell you we'll just keep trying till we get one. Mind will say, I need this one and I have to get this one and I really want this one. Don't muck it up. Which one's making you stressed? Not intellect. Intellect's telling you, what is the criteria? Have I got the updated resume? That's what intellect's telling you. If they need me to learn something, where's the courses available? Can I do an online course to upgrade my skills so that I can? Can I show them experience where I have been innovative? That's what intellect's doing. And mind screaming, don't muck up. So we have mind thinking, emotional thinking, and we have logical thinking, which is fueled by knowledge and reason. Intellect also has another beautiful quality in spirituality. We call it faith. What is this faith? Well, experience has been a great teacher. Faith is not just God's going to make everything okay, because define okay and define God. There's a lot of defining. So we don't just believe God is going to make everything away, because intellect will want to define everything. But we have lived however many years we have lived. And for some of us, that's quite a few years. And experience has taught us. There's good times, there's bad times. We get through the bad times. Sometimes the bad times have good bits in them. Sometimes the good bits have bad bits in them. All this the intellect has understood through so many years of experience, just normal life. And so here I am, and it's tight, and I need to get this job. And intellect is telling me, well, we've gone through so much, we'll get through this. Faith. And we'll work it out. Whatever needs to be done, we'll work it out. So intellect has knowledge, which gives it faith. Intellect has reasoning capacity, which gives it immense clarity. And so in any given scenario, mind will do its thinking, and intellect will also do its thinking. Oh, I'm not using it. I was going to give the example of my mic. I should use the mic so I can give the example of the mic. So I have this very cool new mic, which, oh, I have to switch it up before that. Is it on? Okay. And my previous mic had something like 12 buttons. Well, not buttons, knobs. And it was super duper confusing. Which one to press, which one not to press, how much to turn it to. It was all very complicated. And then we did away with complicated mic. And now we have this new system, and it only has 3 buttons. And you can make one loud and one soft. And if I make the right one loud, I sound like this. If I make the other one loud, I sound like I am in a disco studio. It's so cool. You make one loud, make the other one soft, and then that's how you sound. You switch it around, you sound totally different. Shall we show you? No, I'm joking. But it is fun. It do sound very cool with the surround sound. And then what does the third mic do? I don't know. Oh, music. Sorry, I do know. But we don't play music in the classes, so no need. So why do I like my mic so much? Because we have 3 buttons. Body, mind, intellect. If you turn mind on maximum volume, you can't hear intellect, and you sound one way. Turn mind down, turn up intellect, you sound very different. This is all there is to it. Have you turned up volume on mind? Or have you turned up volume on intellect? So going into a scenario, there will be elements of fear in any given scenario. Because most things we do in life, we do because we want to do. We want a certain outcome, right? Otherwise, we're not doing it. We've talked to someone, we want a particular outcome. We don't talk to someone, we want a particular outcome. So if I'm doing everything based on a desire, and if I'm going to feel not getting my desire is a threat, there's always the potential of fear. If I listen to mind, that fear grows. If I listen to intellect, it's there, but it's negligible. And there's been moments and phases in your life where you have been a little bit like, and then you think, wait a minute, I'm overreacting. All of us have done that. We've all experienced that. That's intellect being louder. Yeah. So this is why it's so important for us to know intellect is higher, so that we use it. Okay, now let's get into something a little bit more gray area. Somebody doesn't like us. Maybe lots of people don't like us. And we really want to make a friend or create some kind of meaningful relationship. So the desire is really high. And maybe self-talk also already fairly critical. So the feeling of being rejected or the feeling of being ignored is now seen as a very big threat. And it genuinely can feel that way. I'm not discounting that it really can be quite daunting, not just for young people, definitely for them in school, but even for us as adults, right? And because we want to fit in, we want to belong, we want to be loved, we want to create beautiful connections with other people. And so here, is it as simple as going into intellect and not listening to mind? It is as simple as that. Does mind serve no purpose whatsoever? It does. Otherwise, we wouldn't have it. Mind definitely serves a purpose. So it makes me aware that I'm feeling threatened. And so it makes me aware of what I feel is important. And that's already beautiful. If I can recognize that this is something I hold as important. What am I holding as important? In this scenario, creating connections with other people. In the previous scenario, getting a job. In the previous scenario, being on time. If I hold this as important, now what I should do is move to intellect. Why? Because mind's job was to tell me that this is important. It can't give me what I want. It doesn't have the resources available to work out how to give me what I want. I want meaningful connections. How am I going to get that? Mind will be involved, but I need to have understanding. Understanding of what behavior invokes what response. So if I go in overly enthusiastic, people get a little bit overwhelmed. Happens. If I don't show as though I'm interested, they don't know I am, and they don't respond. So now, how to have that right balance of being interested but not overly interested? Mind is not going to know. Intellect is going to know, because intellect is where knowledge is. It's where understanding is. And so what tends to happen is I really want something. I get so excited because I want it. And I let mind drive the scenario. Because it's want, and want exists in mind. And so to get what I want, I'm using mind. But mind doesn't know how to get what I want. To get what I want, I need intellect. And this is true for the job. This is true even to catch the train. If I really wanted to be on that train, I should have left earlier, which means I should have planned my time better, which I do with intellect, not with mind. So when I say intellect is higher thinking and mind is lower thinking, it is definitely a hierarchy, but that doesn't mean mind doesn't have a purpose and a beauty. Then now let's say I really want meaningful connection with this person. Any person? Intellect has already guided me on appropriate conversation, appropriate volume of voice to be using, appropriate amount of flirting, not flirting, formality, not formality. All of that intellect has given me direction. And now I'm having conversation with this person who I think is very pleasant and would like to. Then I go back to mind. Because mind feels. And for the connection to happen, there has to be feeling. So it's not that mind's left out of the equation. Never listen to mind, it's lower. No. It comes back in because connections happen through feelings. But guidance should happen through thinking. And thinking should understand what it is that I'm feeling. Appropriate, not appropriate, and how much is healthy and how much is not healthy. So all of spirituality, in the Bhagavad Gita, Shri Krishna says, Samatmam yoga uchate. What does that mean? Balance is yoga. Hear that Goldilocks and the Three Bears book. Such a cute story for kids. Actually, maybe it's not about the bed being too hard and too soft. It's about our hearts. Not too hard, not too soft. The heart has to be, and to be able to know that balance of what's right, because it changes. So usually I'll do this. Actually, let's do it. You all please all stand up. We'll stand up. I'll do it with you all. Online people can do it too. You cannot stand up. Yeah. Okay. So planting your feet firmly in the ground and then standing on your toes. I'm going to put the camera down, so I'm going to might wobble, so don't look at me. Don't look at Krishna. Okay. Do you need a break? And coming down. So, please sit. We are perfectly still, standing on your toes. Online people, if you didn't stand up and stand on your toes, how will you be able to answer all these questions then? Were you perfectly still? Of course not. Didn't even get y'all to do tree pose or warrior three. All you had to do was stand on your toes and you couldn't stand still. What stopped you from falling over? This is not a hard question. No, more specific. That's a very good answer. I love it. Concentration, yes. What else? Determination? Okay. Why not? It's a good word. Come on, guys. What did you keep doing while you were standing on your toes? Greed. Yeah. That one we don't have to put so much effort in. You were constantly adjusting your weight. It wasn't the same all the time. Your weight kept moving. And as your weight moved, you adjusted so that you did not fall over. That, my friends, is yoga. Constantly adjusting to find the balance in that moment. There's no fixed balance. The balance changes moment to moment. So if my heart has to be a little bit softer in this scenario, balance shifts. My heart needs to be a little bit harder in this scenario. Balance shifts. If I just go in there, I want what I want, where's my balance? Where will I find balance? Not in mind, not in I want, not in I'm scared. I find balance in, where did you find balance? Through concentrating, which is in intellect. And even though it wasn't great thought because you were just standing on your toes, there were thoughts involved. They had to be presence of mind. If there isn't presence of mind, you lose your balance. And that's why it's yoga. Yoga is presence of mind so that I can find my balance. How much mind? How much intellect? Usually, more intellect. Most times, more intellect. I remember I attended a speed reading class. Can't really speed read. I attended the class. And the guy was saying, you know, you can read something like 1,000 words a minute, gave some really amazing goals that we can reach. And then he said, but you have to remember, why are you speed reading and the purpose for speed reading? And you don't always want to speed. If you are reading the love letter that your beloved sent you, you don't want to speed read. In fact, you want to read it really slowly. So every now and then, we'll want mind. It's not that we should always have intellect. But what we should always have is balance. Even when I'm in mind, intellect should be completely aware of what mind is feeling, why, and how much of it is appropriate. So that intellect can take over the minute it needs to. Okay. So we go back to fear. What is it that we are afraid of? Whatever we perceive to be a threat, one of the things we perceive to be a threat is not getting what we want. And then there's some more serious ones. There's less serious ones also, but there's definitely more serious ones. We perceive insult as a threat, or failure as a threat. And then this is an interesting one. This is biologically built in that lizard brain part of us. In Eastern scriptures, we just call it tamas. What's this inbuilt tamas that we are afraid of causes fear? We are afraid of struggle. We are afraid of something being hard. Now, if you use caveman analogy and the reptile brain, the idea is if there's going to be a struggle, you could die. Okay. You think of a very high, steep mountain, you think of a raging river. Don't do it. Now, come to our world. We love raging rivers. We go whitewater rafting. We love high mountains. We want to climb all of them. What's struggle for us? Struggle for us is things that don't come easily. Or if we have to bear insult, discomfort, failure, we have to endure failure. All of this is perceived as struggle. And so instinctively inbuilt, we are afraid of struggle. The minute we see struggle, no, stay safe. And this translates to us in our world as comfort zone. Struggle is anything outside of our comfort zone. This is disaster. Because for us, struggle is not a threat. For us, struggle is the only way for us to improve. Improve in anything. If we want to improve, we're going to have to put in effort. We have to work hard. Whether it be physically working hard to go from doing, 5 push-ups to 10 push-ups, or mentally working hard to learn a new language, to learn a new skill, to learn technology, to be able to get along with somebody else, to figure out who in the team should do what and what my place in the team is, to deal with all the politics of the team, you struggle. And so many people will think, no, deal with all these social politics, no. And then how will I know if I can truly accept, if I can forgive, if I'm patient, if I'm not judgmental? Even if I am judging, I I judging out of arrogance, or am I judging to understand? Because we do judge to understand. That's perfectly fine. So even when I meet a person, I'm trying to understand where they're coming from. Where will we vibe? If we're not going to vibe, at least find some common topic that we can have some worthwhile discussion on. We will judge, right? All of that is judgment. Judgment doesn't mean I think you're a bad person. No, judgment is so many things. Yeah. And judgment is also, I think I'm better than you. Or you are not worthy of my time, effort. So, struggle. If I don't struggle, I'm not going to get through all that. Through all what? All those personality traits that make me beautiful, that make me someone I'm proud of. Not that we want to be proud, we want to be humble. Someone I'm humble of. Doesn't work. So spiritually, then we stagnate. So I need to struggle to physically improve. I need to struggle to, in my career, improve. Struggle might be the wrong word, but you know what I'm saying. Put in effort. In a relationship, I need to put in that effort so that the relationship can go the next step. I need to commit. I need to adjust. I need to take responsibility. And for spiritual growth, I need to deal with what? With all those things I don't want to deal with. Because otherwise, we don't grow spiritually. We might grow emotionally, we might grow financially, we might grow in status, we might grow in our dress size, but we won't grow spiritually. We only grow spiritually when we endure other people, circumstances, do all those things that we don't like doing until we realize, oh, it's not so bad. Not so bad at all. I tell this story often. When I first moved to Hong Kong, it was such a crazy culture shock. So long ago. And there was so incredibly little I liked about Hong Kong in those days. I found myself complaining until somebody made me aware that I complained a lot. And so I resolved that I would not say a single bad thing about Hong Kong. That's what I've been first year and second year, around that vicinity. I will not say anything bad about Hong Kong. It will not come out of my mouth. So I'm good that way. Try. So people will say, do you like Hong Kong? And I would say, yeah. The train system's really efficient because I had to say something positive. I could not complain. And the only thing I could think of that was good was the train system. And then the things that I could say started growing. And grew. Today I can say plenty of beautiful things about Hong Kong. I'm very grateful to be here. Because there's nowhere on God's creation that isn't beautiful and doesn't have beauty. It's just whether I choose to look for it or not. So, struggle. Struggle means when I don't like something, it's so easy for me to say, I'm not going to deal with it. So easy for me to walk away, switch it off. Even on our phone, so easy. In Instagram, people you don't like, you can unfollow them and they won't know you unfollowing them. There's so many features now to dodge people on social media. Or there's a special setting, right? They think you're following them, but their things don't turn up on your feed. You can do so many on Facebook and on the phone, and you don't get the alerts, you don't get their rings. So easy. I just won't deal with you. Why? I don't like you. You're too much effort for me. What was fear again? Struggle. So I'm afraid to struggle. We don't think of it as fear. We think of it as, I don't want to deal. But what are the words we use? What's the word? Oh, the word's gone from my head. Dread. I dread having to go to these kind of functions. I dread speaking to this person. I dread fear. It's just another word for fear. And maybe we're not saying the word dread, but that's what it is we feel. And then the other thing we say is, I don't want to deal. And I don't want to deal is not fear, but it's caused by fear. Because dealing is perceived as too much effort. So, lizard brain will tell us not to struggle. Mind, in the mood of tamas, will tell us not to struggle. Yeah, you don't have to. Put your feet up, relax. You don't have to like everybody in the world. Who said that? Where did that authority come from? The last time I checked there was scriptures, you have to like everybody in the world. Oh, you're not getting moksha. So this whole, I don't have to like everybody in the world. Oh, yeah, you do. Or at least you don't have to dislike everybody in the world. Definitely you shouldn't dislike anybody. Even one person, huh? That's all you need. You need to just dislike one person and you have pushed your moksha. Next slide. Don't look at me, it's not my rules. I didn't make up the rules. I'm just the messenger. Because dislike means I refuse to see God in this person. And I have no right. I have no right because God is all pervading. I have no right to exclude God from anything. Struggle. If we want to improve physically, struggle. So, tamasic mind is saying no need. Have a hot chocolate, put marshmallows in it, put your feet up. No need to go gym. No need for all this workout and diet. Intellect needs to come in and say, even if you have the hot chocolate, no need for marshmallows. Intellect shouldn't take over. I'm not saying don't have much effort, it's very nice. But balance. Yoga is balance. And I don't want to deal with relationship. Intellect needs to come in and say, why? As if you're the most amazing person on this planet. People deal with you. Get on with it. Deal. Intellect needs to come in, so we struggle. If we don't struggle, what stagnates putrefies. That's the rule. Again, don't look at me. I don't make the rules. Water that stagnates, putrefies. Air that stagnates, putrefies. Our mind that stagnates, voila. Then people have to deal with us. We the struggle for everybody else. So, intellect needs to take over and run the ship. Fear will be there. Dread will be there. Hesitation will be there. Apprehension will be there. Caution will be there. Why? Because it's part of the way the brain thinks. Mind is there. Emotional thinking is there. We have so many designs. There's going to be all those fears. Fine. You be there. Intellect has to choreograph, direct, make the decisions. And so it needs to override. Higher thinking has to override lower thinking. If it didn't, none of us would exercise. None of us would eat healthy. Some few people who are blessed with amazing muscles. We wouldn't put in the effort to learn more. We wouldn't put in the effort to give more. Struggle is needed for us to grow. And, today, thanks to amazing technology that we have, you can see time lapse of the seed breaking to become that shoot, and that shoot pushing its way through the sand to come out from the surface of the earth. How much struggle that is. We don't think, but actually that struggle, that seed, that shell is so hard to break it is struggle. The earth is compact, solid. That sprout has to push, struggle. And then it comes out and it's this beautiful plant. Still, the struggle continues. It has to grow. It has to flower. It has to fruit. The struggle continues and it does it. And, because we see it looking beautiful, we don't see the struggle it went through. We just see, oh, so pretty. It's pretty because it went through the struggle. And for those of you who have kids, that's crazy struggle. The 9 months, the labor, and then that kid comes out. And it's so beautiful. Most people will say it's the best moment of their life when they see their kid. But that labor was struggle. That 9 months was struggle. To get to beautiful, there's always struggle. And so if we're scared of struggle, how are we going to get to beautiful? So, lizard brain will let you know, this is hard. And intellect will say, yeah, I got this. And that is what intellect will say. Intellect will say, I got this. But we have to remember to dial up the volume on intellect. I know that the fear will be there. We don't have to listen to it because the threat is not so bad. I won't say it's not real. You could fail. You could get hurt. You could get rejected. All those things can happen. It's not so bad. It's part of the becoming beautiful. So, perception. Perception is a huge part of fear. Understanding that it's fine that we feel it. It's not fine to let it rule. It is fine to feel it. We just don't have to listen to it. And if we do listen to it, because sometimes we need to, balance. How much? How much do we need to listen to it? Adjust. And adjustments happen at intellect. Okay, we're gonna pause there. I didn't know. Questions?
I'm not sure how to word it. Sometimes like there is a real threat, right? But it
Real threat. There is real threats, yeah.
maybe it's not directly to me. I still feel it. Then how
Yeah, I feel fear for things happening to other people. Yeah. So I can answer you. You're gonna want more than that. And you might think I'm heartless, but anyways. It's because we attached that we will have fear for the other person. And when there's real threat, what can I really do? Yeah, attachment is hard to break, for sure. But if we talk about the threat bit, what can I do? If there's something I can do, please do. If it's real threat, then you listen to mine and you'll be scared.
disconnect is difficult.
For detaching,
No, just you have to let go of the fear. If it's a real threat.
it's a real threat. We'll talk about it next week. If it's a real threat, you'll feel fear. That's what fear is for. Purnamada Purnamidam Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Shishyate Om Shanti 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 Hari Om. Shri Guru Dev.